Money, to him, was never a number. It was movement. It was permission. Freedom to chase the sound in his head, to take music beyond walls and borders, to imagine stages where none existed before. André Rieu lived as though limits were suggestions, not rules. He was the kind of man willing to gamble everything he had to build something beautiful, even if it meant standing on the edge of collapse. He believed that if music could be seen, felt, and shared, it could change lives. And so he chased that belief relentlessly, carrying a violin, a dream, and a conviction that joy was worth the risk. Behind the glow of orchestral lights and the sweeping sound that filled stadiums, there existed a quieter truth, a truth rarely spoken aloud. At the center of Andre's life was not only the music, but a woman who chose the shadows so that his light could reach farther. Marjorie, his lifelong companion, his silent strength, his partner in every sense of the word. While the world saw a conductor commanding thousands, few understood the balance that sustained him, and fewer still were prepared for the moment when that balance began to shift. Whispers grew as Marjorie stepped away, retreating from public life during the most fragile chapter of her husband's journey. The absence was noticeable, the silence louder than applause. Questions followed, but answers did not. What leads a woman who spent decades building something with her hands and heart to withdraw just as the structure trembles? What does it mean to say goodbye not with words, but with distance, dignity, and restraint? Long before the grand stages, Andre was simply a boy with a violin. At 11 years old, he played not for crowds, but for possibility. It was during those early years that he met Marjorie Kaufman, 2 years older, already thoughtful, already grounded. Where he dreamed in melodies, she listened in structure and meaning. She saw his future not as fantasy, but as something that could be built carefully, patiently, together. From that moment forward, their lives moved in harmony, each shaping the other. Marjorie's brilliance was never loud. Holding a doctorate in German literature, she chose intention over attention. She understood that influence did not require visibility. While Andre stepped into the spotlight, she stood just beyond it, shaping the direction, guarding the purpose, and anchoring the vision. For more than 5 decades, she was the unseen force guiding a musical empire, ensuring that creativity never lost its humanity. When the Johann Strauss Orchestra was founded in 1987, it was not merely a professional milestone. It was the physical manifestation of a shared philosophy. Music, they believed, belonged to everyone. Marjorie managed the growing complexity behind the scenes, overseeing operations, advising on tours, shaping productions, and protecting the heart of what they were creating. Andre often acknowledged that his ideas were refined, challenged, and elevated through late-night conversations with her. What audiences admired as spontaneity was, in truth, the result of deep collaboration. As performances grew larger, so did the risks. The decision to recreate monumental stages, to push classical music into arenas and open squares, nearly dismantled everything they had built. Financial strain threatened the foundation, yet it was Marjorie's clarity that steadied the course. She understood people as deeply as she understood systems. She knew when to step forward and when to step back. She preserved not just a business, but a family of musicians who traveled, celebrated, and lived together under her quiet guidance. Away from the applause. The Rio family lived with intention and privacy. Their home remained distant from spectacle. Their children were protected from intrusion. Life was shaped by meaning rather than headlines. And as years passed, Marjorie gradually released the responsibilities she once carried. Her withdrawal was not sudden. It was deliberate, graceful. When Andre's health began to falter, her public presence faded entirely. Those close to her understood it as a choice rooted in dignity. She stopped attending rehearsals. She stepped away from tours. not out of absence of care, but out of devotion to something deeper. After a lifetime of service to others, she chose quiet, and in that quiet, she remained steadfast, even as the world searched for explanations. André felt the weight immediately. In interviews, his words softened, his language shifted. He spoke of partnership not in present certainty, but in careful reflection. The absence of Marjorie was both professional and profoundly personal. She was not only his wife, she was his collaborator, his compass, the constant presence that shaped every chapter of his life. Her legacy was never meant for stages, yet it resonated through every note he played as his own health challenges mounted. The silence around their private lives grew thicker. Illness did not announce itself with drama. It arrived slowly, behind the curtain. Years earlier, a severe infection had stolen his balance and tested his resilience. Recovery was long, painful, humbling, and through it all, Marjorie stood beside him, unwavering. Time pressed forward. The world paused during the pandemic, and with it, the rhythm that once defined his life. Performances halted. Tours vanished. When the music returned, it carried a different weight. In recent years, signs of strain became harder to ignore. Fatigue lingered. Appearances became rare. During a tour in 2024, illness forced cancellations, and concern rippled through audiences worldwide. His son, Pierre, spoke of witnessing his father's struggle backstage. Determined to give everything he had left, speculation followed. André chose silence. He refused to turn pain into spectacle. What mattered to him was the music, and so he played with emotion unfiltered, each performance carrying the feeling of farewell without ever naming it. Every standing ovation became more than applause. It became gratitude, a recognition of a life shaped by courage, love, and resilience. André continues not out of denial, but out of devotion to the art that gave his life meaning. And within every note lives the story of two lives intertwined, one visible, one quietly enduring. Comment or write Rip André Rieu to honor them. She never asked to be seen, yet her presence defined everything. Marjorie Kaufman shaped a legacy without claiming it. Through partnership, restraint, and unwavering belief, she built a world where music could belong to all. Her strength was measured not by applause, but by endurance. Her story lives not in headlines, but in harmony.comment or write Rip Marjorie Kaufman to honor them. Watching from the wings, carrying both pride and concern, stands their son, Pierre, bearing witness to greatness not as myth, but as family. His perspective bridges past and present, reminding the world that behind every legend is a lineage, shaped by love.comment or write Rip Pierre to honor them, *******. When the curtain lifts and the orchestra settles into silence, there is a moment where breath hangs in the air. André Rieu learned to live inside that moment. It is where anticipation meets memory, where the past presses gently against the present. In recent years, that pause has grown heavier. The man who once moved effortlessly across the stage now carries his motion with care, conserving energy, listening to his body as closely as he listens to his musicians. The smile remains, but behind it lives concentration, restraint, and an awareness shaped by time. Illness does not arrive with a single sound. It layers itself quietly. Years earlier, a viral infection altered André's balance, turning the simple act of standing into a challenge. For someone whose art depends on precise movement and physical command, it was a devastating interruption. Concerts were canceled. Silence replaced sound. Recovery demanded patience, discipline, and humility. Physical therapy became part of his routine. Rest was no longer optional. Through it all, Marjorie remained close, protective, present in ways the public never saw. The scars of that period never fully disappeared. Schedules were adjusted. Appearances reduced. Interviews shortened. André learned to pace himself, even as audiences continued to expect the boundless energy they had always known. Then the world itself stopped. When the pandemic arrived, stages went dark everywhere. For André, the silence was both familiar and unsettling. Music had always been his way of moving through hardship, yet now it had nowhere to go. While other performers adapted to screens and virtual formats, his own health required caution. Treatments took place away from cameras. Fans waited unsure, holding on to memories and recordings while hoping for reassurance. When performances finally resumed, they carried a different tone. The joy was still there, but it was deeper, more fragile, edged with reflection. In 2024, illness returned with force during a tour, bringing fevers and weakness that could no longer be hidden. Shows were canceled once again. Behind the scenes, those closest to him watched with quiet concern as he insisted on standing, on playing, on honoring commitments, even when his body resisted. Pierre, his son, stood nearby during those moments. To watch a father who once seemed invincible struggle is a kind of reckoning. Pierre spoke not of drama, but of resolve. Of a man who refused to surrender meaning, even when strength faded. Those brief backstage moments revealed a devotion that surpassed performance. André played not for acclaim, but because music remained the language through which he understood himself. Speculation swirled beyond the stage. Questions multiplied. André answered none of them. He chose privacy over explanation, dignity over disclosure. Illness, to him, was not a story to be sold. It was a reality to be carried quietly, alongside love, responsibility, and art, music, and interviews. His words began to change. He spoke of legacy not as ambition, but as gratitude. Of love not as romance, but as endurance. At times, he referred to Marjorie in ways that suggested distance, then corrected himself as though language itself struggled to keep pace with emotion. Those listening closely felt the shift. Something unspoken had entered the room. Marjorie's own condition remained cloaked in silence. Rumors emerged, whispered diagnoses passed between strangers. None were confirmed. What was known was her absence, deliberate and complete. She withdrew not out of fear, but out of choice. After a lifetime of guiding others, she turned inward, choosing peace over presence. The household that once echoed with planning, laughter, and music now moved to a gentler rhythm. Care replaced coordination. Quiet replaced conversation. Hospice care entered their world not as an ending, but as a form of compassion. André continued to perform when he could, channeling what remained of his strength into sound. Each note carried weight. Each melody felt like a message. Audiences sensed it immediately. When he played familiar pieces, listeners wept openly, not because the music had changed, but because its meaning had deepened. Farewell does not always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives as beauty intensified, as vulnerability revealed through art. Media appearances became rare. When they happened, they were carefully prepared, brief, controlled. André protected his energy. His team protected his time. The orchestra, many of whom had traveled with him for decades, became more than colleagues. They became guardians of a shared history, offering support not just musically, but emotionally. Still, André refused to frame his journey as tragedy. According to him, the music must continue, not as denial, but as devotion. Every performance now exists in a space between celebration and goodbye. Each standing ovation honors not only a career, but a partnership that defined it. Through it all, Marjorie's influence remains unmistakable. Her belief that classical music should be open, joyful, and human shaped every decision they made together. Even in absence, she guides the rhythm. Even in silence, she is heard comment or write R.I.P. André Rieu to honor them. She chose a life without applause and left behind a legacy felt everywhere. Marjorie Kaufman's strength lived in restraint, in wisdom, in unwavering partnership. Her departure from public life was not disappearance, but completion. A final act of grace. Comment or write Rip Marjorie Kaufman to honor them. As witness to both brilliance and vulnerability. Pierre carries forward the quiet truth of this story, not as inheritance, but as understanding. He stands between generations, holding memory with care. Comment or write Rip Pierre to honor them. Asterisk, asterisk, before the world knew him as a phenomenon. Before arenas filled and cameras followed his every movement, André Rieu was a student of tradition. He was raised in an environment where music was not decoration, but discipline. Born in Maastricht, Netherlands, he grew up surrounded by classical sound, guided by a father who understood the rigor of conducting and the responsibility that comes with carrying culture forward. From an early age, André absorbed the language of European classical music, learning not only how to play, but how to listen. As his skills matured, so did his awareness. André recognized something many of his contemporaries ignored. Classical music, though rich and powerful, had become distant for much of the public. It was seen as formal, intimidating, reserved for quiet halls and strict etiquette. He felt the disconnect deeply. Music that once belonged to communities now felt locked behind rules. André did not want to preserve tradition by freezing it in place. He wanted to keep it alive by letting it breathe. That realization became the spark for reinvention. He imagined concerts where people smiled, moved, laughed, and felt welcome, where elegance did not require silence and respect did not mean distance. This vision was not universally embraced. Critics questioned his flamboyance. Purists resisted his theatricality. Yet André pressed forward, guided by conviction rather than approval. In 1987, the founding of the Johann Strauss Orchestra marked a turning point. It was not merely an ensemble, but a statement. The orchestra became a bridge between eras, blending classical compositions with contemporary presentation. Familiar pieces like the Blue Danube and the Merry Widow were performed not as relics, but as living expressions of joy. Formal attire remained, but stiffness vanished. Audiences were encouraged to participate, to dance, to feel. André expanded the repertoire beyond expectation. Film scores, popular ballads, seasonal melodies all found a place alongside traditional waltzes. This diversity invited listeners who had never considered attending a classical concert. Music became accessible not by dilution, but by connection. Each performance was designed as an experience, complete with lighting, staging, and narrative flow. Venues grew larger. Public squares, palaces, stadiums. The orchestra performed in iconic locations across Europe and South America, transforming open spaces into shared celebrations. Millions watched broadcasts that redefined what classical music could look like. Instead of academic formality, they saw warmth. Instead of distance, they felt inclusion. André's tours extended across continents, reaching audiences in North and South America, Asia, and Australia. Language barriers dissolved under melody. Cultural differences softened through rhythm. His understanding of universal emotion allowed music to serve as common ground. Tickets were priced with intention. Staging was designed for scale. He removed obstacles that had long kept people away. The impact was undeniable. Record sales reached tens of millions. Online audiences multiplied into the hundreds of millions. Yet numbers were never the goal. André measured success in faces, in shared moments, in the sound of thousands moving together. His concerts became gatherings where strangers felt united by feeling rather than formality. This transformation did not happen by chance. It was guided by leadership that extended beyond the podium. André approached his orchestra not as a hierarchy, but as a community. He fostered an environment built on respect and shared purpose. Musicians were not interchangeable parts, but individuals contributing to a collective voice. Business decisions mirrored artistic philosophy. André understood that sustainability required strategy. Touring models were carefully designed. Recordings, live streams, and merchandise supported the larger vision. Revenue was reinvested into production quality, outreach, and growth. He balanced creativity with responsibility, ensuring the orchestra could endure. Despite success, challenges persisted. Innovation carries resistance. Expansion invites scrutiny. Yet André adapted continuously, learning from strain and recalibrating when necessary. He believed music must evolve alongside its audience or risk becoming irrelevant. That adaptability preserved a genre many feared was fading. Underlying every decision was belief. To André, music was not entertainment alone. It was spiritual, emotional, and transformative. He saw it as a force capable of healing, uniting, and uplifting. This belief shaped his programming. Songs were chosen not only for beauty, but for memory. Pieces that stirred collective emotion were placed intentionally, guiding audiences through shared journeys. Participation was essential. He spoke to crowds. He invited response. Laughter and tears were equally welcome. His stage became a place of gathering, not performance alone. Stories unfolded between notes, creating intimacy even in massive spaces. Throughout his life, André often reflected on how music sustained him through hardship. It carried him through illness, uncertainty, and loss. It connected him to people he would never meet personally, yet felt bound to through sound. Letters and messages from fans reinforced this connection, especially during times when live performances were impossible. During the pandemic, recorded concerts and digital performances offered comfort to those isolated by distance and grief. André believed artists carried responsibility during struggle. Presence mattered. Even without physical stages, music could still reach hearts. At the center of this philosophy stood Marjorie. Their marriage embodied the harmony André sought to create in the world. Decades of partnership grounded him emotionally and ethically. Her support during difficult times reinforced his resilience. Together, they lived the values he expressed through art connection, compassion, and shared humanity. His charitable efforts reflected the same principles. He supported music education, donated instruments, and backed outreach programs for underserved youth. Fundraising performances aided disaster victims, healthcare initiatives, and educational causes. To him, music was a right, not a privilege. As years passed, the meaning of his performances deepened. Joy remained central, but it was now layered with gratitude and reflection. André continued not because it was easy, but because it mattered. His art had grown alongside his life, shaped by love, struggle, and belief. Comment or write André Rieu to honor them.